unmatched. Lori Vallow Daybell's descent from suburban mother to convicted murderer is a chilling saga of apocalyptic delusions and family betrayal. After serving life sentences for the murders of her children, JJ and Tylee, and her fifth husband's first wife, Tammy, Lori Vallow Daybell was moved from Idaho to Arizona, where she stood trial for her involvement in the murders of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, and the attempted murder of her ex-nephew-in-law, Brandon Boudreaux. And in those cases, Lori Daybell chose to represent herself, but she couldn't convince a jury that she wasn't involved. She was found guilty in both separate trials, and today she was back in court for both for the final sentencing hearing in the Doomsday Cult Mom case.
In this day and age where truth seems to matter little to our talking heads on the news and to our politicians, I'm proud that this trial court, and through our jury trials, we draw on the collective wisdom of jurors to determine the truth. As I said in my jury instructions to the jury, it is their job to determine the truth. The defendant spent several minutes talking about statistics and being prevented from presenting her side, and that is not the truth. Maricopa County is a court of innovation. We virtually screened hundreds of jurors, and we kicked off jurors from service that had ever even heard of Lori Vallow. So when she says that she couldn't get a fair trial in Maricopa County, that is not the truth.
You can feel the judge's pride here, not just in the law, but in the people who serve justice. In a world where misinformation is everywhere, it's powerful to see a courtroom insist that truth still matters. This isn't just a trial, it's a stand against distortion.
Your cases involved 24 separate jurors who deliberated and reached verdicts on these two cases. They represent a broad cross-section of society, which means these two verdicts represent the decisions of our community, not the view of a single person, not the view of a single prosecutor, and not the view of a judge. The collective decision-making of juries helps to reduce individual biases and errors in judgment. 12 jurors in the first case unanimously agreed that proof beyond a reasonable doubt established you conspired to kill Charles Vallow. And 12 separate jurors in the second case, again with no prior knowledge of you whatsoever, no knowledge of your notoriety, unanimously agreed you conspired to have Brandon Boudreaux killed.
Two juries, two unanimous decisions. No shared bias, no conspiracy, just cold, hard facts. That's rare. And that's why her defense of unfairness falls apart. When two totally separate groups of people look at your actions and see guilt, the system did work.
Many people have asked why the state bothered to extradite you and bring you to Arizona, given the sentences that you received in Idaho. Trials are not just about seeking accountability or punishment from those who have committed crimes, but to give the victims of crimes justice and acknowledgement of the impact of being a victim. Justice demands not only recognition of the pain inflicted, but a firm response that upholds the dignity.
Some people online questioned why she was even brought back to Arizona. Wasn't Idaho enough? But this clip says it all. It wasn't just about punishment. It was about giving every victim a voice, a moment, a chance to be seen. That's what real justice looks like.
You've left a wake of destruction, stretching from Louisiana, across Texas, Arizona, up to Idaho and back again. Anytime a person victimizes a single individual, the ripple effects of their actions extend far beyond the immediate harm. And you have not victimized just a single victim, but many. You've shattered lives, you've undermined trust, you've sowed fear in the hearts of many. I can't imagine what Brandon and his family went through for those months, hiding, Charles's family wondering who's next. Is someone coming for them?
This part hit hard. These weren't isolated crimes. They were like poison, seeping across state lines, families, generations. Imagine living every day wondering if you're next. Wondering if the smiling person beside you is plotting your murder.
I'll just touch on a couple of them. I had wondered during the trial whether you suffer from survivor's guilt, and she confirmed that for me today. I also remember looking at you in the back of the courtroom trial, and just, you have this look about you of a wounded individual. I hope you can heal someday. To Charles's family, I just wanted to share with you that
You rarely hear judges get personal, but this was human. When he mentions sharing a birthday with Charles, you feel the grief shift into something intimate. It's not just a case number to him. It's personal loss woven into justice.
Something. He and I share the same birthday. So I'll remember him on my birthday.
This part is chilling. We're not talking about a crime of passion. This was manipulation on a level that twists love, faith, and trust into weapons. And the judge sees it clearly. This wasn't just criminal. It was calculated evil.
I've seen many cases in my career where someone faces a long prison sentence for what amounted to one split-second bad decision. You are not that person. The amount of contemplation, calculation, planning, manipulation that went into these crimes is unparalleled in my career. Your powers of manipulation are profoundly destructive, one that undermines trust, distorts truth, and can erode the very foundations of healthy relationships and society. The impact of your manipulation has been devastating, insidious, and far-reaching, and perhaps still unknown.
It will take an act of God for you to go free. That line gave me goosebumps. You can feel the weight of everything she's done in those words. And the media attention she craved? That spotlight is fading. She's not a prophet. She's a predator. And now she disappears.
You specialized in exploiting the empathy and goodwill of others, turning those virtues into tools of control and harm. I think that over time, as a result of being subjected to your manipulation, those people lost their sense of self and their ability to distinguish truth from falsehood. In the face of such profound damage, a long prison sentence is not merely a punishment. It is a necessary affirmation that our society values justice, protection, and the sanctity of human life. You just referenced a Bible verse or a verse recently about the prisoners shall go free. That is not a literal verse. That is a verse about people that accept Jesus can be in prison and they will go free when they die and go to heaven. But it will take an act of God for you to go free. In short, you should never be released from prison.
Representing myself, I have learned much about the law through this process, and I'm grateful for the knowledge that I have gained. Knowledge is eternal, and it is only love and the knowledge that we acquire in this life that we take with us into the next. I have studied the rules of law, case law, and the like. I was amazed and enlightened as my understandings were completely changed from before I started this process. Before this long court journey, I only had basic understanding of the judicial process. I was of the understanding that both parties would be able to get up at a trial and each tell their side of the story, but I soon learned that the rules of law do not allow that.
Actually, they do.
Conditions of this jail.
I honestly had to pause here. She's standing in court after being convicted, and she's basically implying she was forced into this by jail conditions and the court system. Like, she just sidestepped the whole murder part. This is not remorse. This is delusion wearing a graduation cap.
Was accountable for these crimes, I would acknowledge it, and I would let you know how sorry I was. But I have witnessed for myself what it is like to leave this mortal existence and return home when I temporarily died in the hospital giving birth to my daughter, Tylee. When our spirit leaves our body and we return to the pure energy state in the spirit world, we immediately no longer feel hate, anger, envy, or resentment. I promise you, heaven is a very busy and happy place where everyone is engaged in projects that they love to do. That includes Joshua, that includes Tylee, that includes Tammy, that includes Charles. No one there.
This part is almost surreal. She talks about temporarily dying and coming back with some kind of spiritual download, and then says her victims, the people she conspired to kill, are busy and happy and don't care about justice. That's not peace. That's emotional manipulation. That's her rewriting reality again.
For 7 life sentences, I will continue to try to uplift and help and strengthen those around me. It does not matter where you serve on earth as long as you do it with love.
Now she brings in the death penalty, not with fear, but with divine confidence. It doesn't matter, she says, because she believes Jesus will perform miracles. It's like she's trying to turn a sentencing hearing into a sermon. But let's be clear, the courtroom runs on law, not prophecy.
It doesn't matter if I'm given 7 lifetimes or the death penalty like my husband. What things look impossible to man are easy for Jesus. Jesus tells us in the Bible not to judge, but this whole entire justice system is just that. So I want you to watch, because God will show the world.
This is the part that actually creeped me out. Jesus is building his army of warriors in prison. She's literally framing her crimes and her imprisonment as part of God's master plan. That's not faith. That's ego. That's how cult leaders think.
I'm in contact with, and I will turn this battle over to God. If this is God's battle, then the math doesn't matter. 7 lifetimes or the death penalty doesn't matter. God's miracles will abound. When a soldier goes off to war, he is a soldier. When a soldier comes back from war, he is a warrior. And Jesus is in the prisons. He is turning his soldiers into warriors. For the prisoners shall go free. Sometimes victory doesn't look like victory until it's finished. Prisoners who have been told that they will never go free will be free. And I want you to expect miracles, and I want you to watch for them, because you will see. We fear not what man can do, because God's warriors surround us. When the battle is relentless, and this one has been for over 6 years, remember, God is building his army of warriors in the prison system. He is turning Sauls into Pauls. When Jesus is sending his servants into the prisons to prepare his warrior team, we will be there only until this purpose is complete, and then the warriors will walk free. We are redeemed by Jesus Christ, so we are free right now. But his chains will break. Prison walls will fall. The power and majesty of God will be revealed. When Jesus is ready, he will call his warriors from the prisons, and we will walk free, and we will serve him. I will quote, and now, if I have no authority for these things, judge ye. For ye shall know that I have authority when ye shall see me, and we shall stand.
A convicted woman. I don't know if we need to add Lori the pastor to her titles, Lori the prison reform advocate. You never know what you're going to get from Lori Vallow Daybell. And there's someone who was inside of the courtroom who's going to tell us all about what was happening there. We have with us Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. Matt, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. You've been bouncing around the country. You were in Idaho, now you're in Arizona. Tell me about what it was like inside of that courtroom when everyone was hearing those words from Lori.
Yeah, you know, and speaking of Idaho, I covered the first trial of the Doomsday Cult mom, and she was pretty much par for course today, you know, much like how she was during that trial when she would giggle and laugh at the witnesses that would testify in the first trial of JJ and Tylee. And today I saw a lot of that. And when she was making those statements, the judge had to correct her on her inaccuracies with the judicial system and her statistics that she was trying to spew in the courthouse here behind me. And then there were times when she was trying to be the prophet, Lori, when you had people in the gallery, they were kind of chuckling. People were looking up. They were raising their hands like, what is happening here? And then Kay and the other victims, they were trying to cover their mouths so that Lori couldn't see them smile, because clearly there is no grasp of reality for Doomsday Cult Mom.
And you mentioned the victims, Matt. Tell us about these victim impact statements. I know that they were emotional. I know this was a final time for these victims to actually speak and not only be heard by the court, be heard by the public, but for Lori Daybell to have to hear what she did.
Yeah, perhaps this is the last time we're going to hear from the Doomsday Cult Mom, right? And this is the very last time that she's going to be in a courtroom here in the state of Arizona. She'll be shipped back to Idaho, where she's going to start serving those 5 life behind bars sentences, 2 more tacked on here. But the courtroom was full of people that were passing around Kleenex boxes. They had lined up in front of the courthouse for several hours to be here. And it was really interesting because to watch this historic day, closing this chapter in this long 6.5-year book of the Doomsday Couple, you had people from Rexburg, you had the investigators here in the gallery, you also had family members of Lori, which was interesting, her brother and also one of her sisters, sister who testified. And then you had all the other victims' families. But what was really heart-wrenching was a letter that Kay Woodcock read to the court when she addressed the court on behalf of J.J. Vallow, who's no longer with us.
She ends by quoting scripture like she's already won some holy war. No apology. No acknowledgement of the victims. Just bold declarations of divine authority. It's terrifying because it shows you just how deep her self-righteousness runs. And it's why this sentence isn't just about punishment. It's about protecting others from her belief that she's above the law and maybe even above consequence.